Troop 108 BSC, Fort Mill, South Carolina presents The Canoe and You, an informative and instructional video. The first procedure is to take a canoe off of the canoe trailer. First, untie the canoe, bring the canoe that you're removing completely away from the trailer and the other canoes, and then gently turn the canoe over and place it on the ground. Now let's review the parts of the canoe. First, there's the thwart. The thwart runs completely from the port to the starboard sides. This gives support. Also considered a thwart, but we usually call it a seat. First, there's the bow seat. Also, there is a stern seat. Also on a canoe, there are two decks. A deck is the flat part on each end of the canoe. This is the stern deck. And this is the bow deck. The rope on each end of the canoe is called a painter. In this case, it's also the same rope used to latch the canoe to the canoe trailer. The rim of the canoe running on each side from stern to bow is called the gunwale. Anytime you go out in a canoe, it is required that you wear a flotation device. This flotation device must be of an approved type. Now let's review the parts of the paddle. First, at the top of the paddle is the grip. Below the grip, the long, round part of the paddle is called the loom. Below the loom, we have the throat. This is the part that connects the long, flat part to the loom. The long, flat part that we just mentioned is called the blade. The bottommost part of the blade is called the tip. When two men are attempting to launch a canoe, it is necessary that each of them take a side and launch the canoe hand over hand into the water. At that point, the sternman boards the canoe while the bowman braces the canoe between his legs. It is necessary when boarding a canoe that you keep your body low and never release your grip on the gunwale. When the sternman has reached his position in the rear of the canoe, he should pick up his paddle and brace the paddle in the water for the bowman to launch the canoe. Now, the bowman is not only responsible for getting in the canoe, again, he is responsible for getting the canoe afloat. That is the proper procedure for launching a canoe with two men. What is the procedure for docking a canoe with two men? Exactly what you just saw in reverse, as you shall see. First, you bring the canoe to shore. At that point, the paddles are stored. Then the bowman gets out of the canoe, turns around, and braces the canoe between his legs to allow for the exit of the sternman. Again, the sternman keeps his body low while never releasing his grip on the gunwales. The proper procedure for bringing a canoe out of the water is hand over hand out of the water, and then each man takes a side and carries the canoe out of the beach. The proper procedure for a single scout bringing a canoe into the water is to carry the canoe with the main thwart over his shoulders. Then the canoe is lifted over and put on the beach. It is necessary to make sure that all painters are put in the canoe before launching. The paddle is stowed, and we are ready to launch. It is necessary to make a point at this time that when paddling alone, and you are a relatively large-sized gentleman, it is necessary to sit in the bow of the canoe facing the stern. This allows you greater ability to navigate, and it balances your weight better in the canoe. Again, the single scout is responsible for launching himself. The docking procedure for a single scout is basically the same, only reverse. The paddle is stowed and the scout gets out, keeping low and his hand on the gunwale. At that time, the canoe is brought ashore. As you can see, two scouts can work together so that neither scout gets tired. And if the scouts work to equalize their stroking power, they can very easily go in a straight line. It is not necessary to take big, deep, quick strokes. Actually, the more effective strokes are the long, powerful strokes. This is a backward stroke. It causes the canoe to go in reverse. This stroke is necessary sometimes if you hit a branch or some obstacle in the water. Now these two gentlemen are showing you how to pivot the canoe. As you can see, the bowman is paddling forward, the sternman backward. Now they'll go in the opposite direction with the sternman paddling forward and the bowman paddling backward. This maneuver can be especially helpful when trying to maneuver around a tight spot in a river or creek. This is called the draw stroke. It allows you to move in on a dock or a pier or even the beach at a parallel rate. This is called the pry stroke. And this is called the brace. This is called sculling. Basically, you are moving the paddle in a figure-8 motion. If both canoeists are doing this at the proper rate, the canoe will basically stay still. These two scouts are showing the proper way to change positions while in a canoe. Now, let's check in on the Scoutmaster meeting with his scouts on a trip preparation.
This weekend we want to prepare for our canoeing trip. We're going to go on out to the point. What we want to do is make a list of those things we need to put in the canoe and take with us. So how about giving me some of those items? Tents, cooking gear, dining fly. How about canoeing items now?
3 paddles.
3 paddles. Why 3?
In case one falls over.
Okay, we have an extra. And 2 life jackets.
Keep all your gear in plastic bags.
Gear in plastic. Why do I keep it in plastic bags?
So if it falls over, it won't get wet.
Okay, and where do we stow all our gear?
In a duffel bag and tie it to the floor.
Tie it to the floor. Okay.
Food.
Okay. How about a bailing device of some sort? Either a sponge on a rope or a scoop. Scoop out the water. Okay. Think of anything else we need. How about a hat?
Yeah, hat.
The sun gets on our head, we need a hat. Possibly sunglasses if you're real sensitive to the light.
This scout is showing the proper way to exit a canoe without shipping water. However, it is recommended that the scout hold on to the canoe so that it doesn't get away from him. Now the scout is showing the proper way to enter a canoe without shipping water. These two gentlemen are showing one of the many ways that you can use to swamp a canoe. However, when you swamp a canoe, it is either recommended that you, A, get in it and paddle it while underwater back to shore, or B, if you're with other canoeists, to use a method that we'll show you a little later. As you can see, these gentlemen have uprighted their canoe while it is still underwater. They are sitting in the canoe, but they should be stowing their paddles and paddling with their hands. Unfortunately, while the canoe is submerged, as it is here, it has a tendency to overreact to a left and right motion. If you're alone when swamping a canoe, sometimes it is necessary to first upright the canoe so it is in a proper position but submerged, and you can then either tow the canoe from the front as is shown here, or you can move to the rear of the canoe and push it to shore. Pushing the canoe seems to be easier for smaller scouts. Here are those two guys again. Now they're going to show us another way to swamp a canoe. Works every time. But lucky for them, they've got some friends on the way. What you are about to see is called the canoe over canoe rescue. First, the gentlemen in the disabled canoe are to get the canoe paddles and hand them to the rescue team. They are then to locate the painter or the rope nearest the rescue team's canoe and hand that to them as well. The rescue team is to move up in a perpendicular fashion to the disabled canoe. After all this is done, the disabled canoeists are to move to the opposite side of the rescue canoe from their disabled canoe. This is to stabilize the rescue canoe so that the rescuers can move more freely in their attempts to restore the disabled canoe. While restoring a disabled canoe in this fashion is no easy work, it can be done by the smallest of scouts. As you can see here, the disabled canoeists are stabilizing the other side of the rescue canoe. Then the rescuer canoeist reach into the water and attempt to break the seal on the disabled canoe. This can be done very simply by turning the canoe into a regular upright manner. This breaks any seal or vacuum that has been created. Often, it takes several minutes to get the canoe in the correct position. I think they've done it. Yes, they've broken the seal by tilting the canoe, and now they lift the canoe bottom side up over their canoe, again using the hand over hand method. That's very important. They lift the canoe over their own, centering it with the thwart in the middle. At that point, with neither end of the disabled canoe in the water, they begin to tilt that canoe in an upward fashion. While one canoeist is pushing up, the canoeist opposite him is pushing his end towards the canoeist that is pushing up. This assists in uprighting the disabled canoe. After the canoe has been uprighted, it is then put back into the water. However, the rescue canoeists do not let the painter go. What they do is they bring the disabled canoe back up next to their own and stabilize that canoe for the disabled canoeist to re-enter their now restored canoe. When the canoeing activity is over, it is important that all canoes and canoeing equipment is properly stored. As you can see here, they are putting the canoe bottom side up on the canoe trailer. Then, using a painter now connected to the canoe trailer, the canoe is secured tightly to the trailer. It is then fastened with 2 half hitches. With a canoe of this type, which weighs only about 80 pounds empty, it's reasonably handy for even small scouts to be able to move.